So this week there were some issues with the Xbox network, and it took about 2 days to get everything taken care of. But during that 2 days, there was a lot of complaints that even if you had the game downloaded, and even if that game was a single-player game, there was no way to play it. Which begs the question, do you actually own the game that you have purchased? And it would seemingly seem that the answer to this question this weekend was no. No, you do not. Not unless you have an internet connection, not unless it can check in with Xbox, and Xbox is able to say, hey, guess what? You're okay to play this. Which has caused a lot of outrage. It's caused a lot of frustration on the part of a lot of gamers. Now, DRM is nothing new. This was a debate that was being had at the beginning of the last generation during the Xbox One and PS4, but this weekend's issues has brought it back up to the forefront. So let's review that, and then let's talk a little bit about the streaming plans for Xbox, the plan to make Xbox streaming available everywhere to everyone. And then, because I think the two are tied together, I think Xbox needs to fine-tune and tweak their Xbox network rules when it comes to games that you have. If you have a game downloaded on your Xbox and it does not require an internet connection via multiplayer, Skyrim, for instance, or a single-player game, then why do I need, regardless whether the network is up or down, I should be able to play that game. So they should house your key or whatever it is that they're doing on, I'm not a technical guy, on your system itself, but let's jump into it here real quick and talk about it. And here's from WindowsCentral.com. The Xbox network should be back up, but some users are still reporting issues. Now, this was a headline yesterday, so things seem to be back up. Now, if we scroll down here, we can see exactly what the issues were with the Xbox network. The inability to make purchases from the Xbox store, including any games, DLC, in-game purchases, and accessories. Now, this was off and on. It wasn't everybody experiencing this, but it was a lot of players. It was enough players that Xbox had to continually tweet about it, Xbox support, and we'll go over the history of those tweets here in a minute. The inability, now, if you had these issues, you may have had the inability to manage or make subscription purchases, including from Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Live Gold, and others, the inability to launch Xbox Cloud gaming sessions regardless of your device, and the inability to launch and play many digital games, especially those included as part of a subscription like Game Pass. Now, the issue with Game Pass, again, if I am subscribed to Game Pass and I download that game onto my console and it's a single player game, which many are, why do I need to check in with the internet? What is the purpose there? And I'm sure the purpose is so that you don't steal the game or something. I don't know. I'm not a technical guy, but I do think this needs to be reworked. I think if Xbox is going to be the gamer-friendly, the consumer-friendly console that it's trying to be, then it needs to enable you to download physical copies of games onto your box and not require a check-in via the internet. So that when issues like this arise, this doesn't happen. You're able to access your games. Now, to be fair, this very rarely happens, especially to this magnitude. Usually if there's an issue with Xbox Network, it's up for an hour, it's down for an hour, 2 hours at the most, and then it's immediately back up. This one was unique in that stuff kept happening over the span of 2 days. So it was pretty substantial, and that caused a lot of frustration. And it did cause players to start to question, hey, do I even own these games? I purchased these games. You know, back in the day, you could buy a physical copy of a game, and the game was yours. It didn't matter if you had an internet connection or not. That is not the case in 2022. And I do think that we need to rework that a little bit, because I think if I purchase a game, whether I purchase it digitally or I purchase it physically, that game should be mine regardless of whether or not I have internet access. The exception being, of course, if the game is reliant on internet access, i.e. a multiplayer game, a Fortnite, an Apex, something to that extent, even a Sea of Thieves. But even a Sea of Thieves, why should I not just be able to play by myself? In a world gone mad. The Sea of Thieves is a little bit different. It's probably a bad example. All right, let's go over the history here. So we can see here are the tweets right here. Actually, let's blow these tweets up, baby, so we can see them. There they are right there. So this one, you can see 2:46 p.m. on May 6th. We're aware that some users are unable to purchase games, launch games, or start cloud gaming sessions. Please keep an eye here on our status page for updates. Now, May 6th was Friday. Now, this was in the afternoon, late Friday, that the first reports of this. Some players, again, may not have had issues. Some players clearly did. but this was the first tweet from Xbox support. A little later, same evening, a few hours later, users should once again be able to complete purchases. Our teams are still investigating issues, launching games, and starting cloud game sessions. Please keep an eye here for our status page for updates. This is just a few hours later. Then we go to the next one. Now, this is a few hours later again, but this is actually the next day. This is 1:11 a.m. Xbox finally, now this is long for Xbox, so I don't know what happened on the back end, but it was clearly something that took a lot of work. All users should once again be able to launch games and start cloud gaming sessions. Thank you for your patience and happy gaming. And so it was like, yay, celebrate, woo! They did it. They fixed it. Or did they? The answer is no. There were still some issues there, and so we continue on May 7th. This is in the afternoon of May 7th. We are still working on resolving the issue. In the meantime, players may see improvement with launching games by rebooting your Xbox console. Keep an eye on our status page for updates. Again, players were still unable to launch games digitally. Now, again, this didn't affect everybody, but it did affect enough people that it became quite the talking point this weekend. So we're 24 hours, over 24 hours at this point, and there's still issues for this over the weekend. The next tweet, again, not until later that evening at 9:19 p.m., players may be seeing improvement when purchasing and launching games and cloud gaming sessions. We are working on full resolution. If you still see issues, rebooting your console may help. A lot of players went through, rebooted their console. A lot of players were setting their home Xbox as their home Xbox, because that seemed to be the issue. If you console share, that sometimes fixes when these issues arise. Regardless, that was later that evening. And then finally, we have at 11:30 p.m. on May 7th, so this is late Saturday night, players should no longer be seeing issues when it comes to purchases, launching games, or joining cloud sessions. Thank you for being patient. Happy gaming. Now, early Sunday morning, players were still experiencing issues. I don't know if that was a lag from, they didn't reboot their console or they just needed to restart something. I don't know. But it did highlight, once again, a major issue with ownership and game ownership, especially with digital copies of games. So much so that Jez Corden of Windows Central, who's, this is Windows Central right here. Great website. Absolutely love it. I believe he's the editor over at Windows Central. He says, writing an editorial about this Xbox outage. This was yesterday. This was Sunday. It's utterly unacceptable that people can't access even offline games on their home console due to this outage. Completely agree with that. I do think this is a serious question to ask, and I do think Xbox needs to come up with a solution, especially if they want to continue to be the gamer-friendly, the consumer-friendly brand that they're so clearly trying to be. If you have a digital copy of a game, if you've purchased it and paid full price, or if you've downloaded a Game Pass game onto your Xbox and it is a single-player game that does not require internet access, why do I need to check in via the internet? Now, I'm sure there's technical issues there. I'm sure that there's questions with copyright, or copyright might be the wrong word, pirating, right? They want to prevent pirating, stuff like that. But I do think that I hope at least that they're working on a solution, because I do think it's a real issue. Let's pretend the internet goes down for a week or something, or a couple weeks, or a month, God forbid, or who knows? I mean, I don't know. But I think that players should be able to. We clearly don't own our games right now. What we do is we're paying $50 to lease your game, and as long as your internet stays up, your lease is good. So I don't think that that's good. I really don't. I don't think that's good for gaming. I don't think that's good for us. We need to have ownership. Digital ownership is the future, and I think Xbox should lead the way with, if you own it digitally, it's on your Xbox, it's yours. It's different if their cloud service goes down and obviously you haven't downloaded that. That makes sense. But if it's downloaded on your console, it's yours, and you should not have to check in via internet in order to play your game. I'd love to know what you guys think about that. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Again, I'm not a technical guy, so don't drill me if they need to check in because of X, Y, or Z. Obviously, all I'm saying is, from a philosophical standpoint, if you own your game, you should own your game. Period. I wanted to also talk about this now. Going side to side with this, here's an example of Xbox trying to be and attempting to be the consumer-friendly place that it is. And this is from Jeff Grubb, an insider over at VentureBeat. He says Xbox plans to launch a streaming puck and Samsung app in the next year. Now, this launched on Friday. This news dropped on Friday. Talked about a little bit over on the X1 Bros podcast. If you've not seen the X1 Bros podcast, we record that every single Friday. A link is in the description below. Make sure you go check that out. But This is, I mean, it's part of their Everywhere program, right? So in the next 12 months, Microsoft plans to release an Xbox Cloud gaming streaming device. This will likely look like an Amazon Fire Stick or perhaps a small Roku-like puck. And like a Roku, the Xbox streaming device will enable you to access movie and TV services in addition to a library of games through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I think this is absolutely huge and the first step forward into really taking advantage of Game Pass. I mean, this is the key to Game Pass. Game Pass is all good and fine, but if you have to buy a console, you are limiting who will subscribe to your service. Now, if you can be Netflix, if you can be Amazon Prime, if you can be HBO Max, and all that players have to do is turn on their TV, connect their controller to this little streaming device that's $20, and you're able to play your game, and you're able to do so with limited lag, because lag is going to be the issue there, then you are golden, and you all of a sudden open up the Xbox and the Xbox Game Pass to literally billions of people in the world, the entire world, essentially. And that's absolutely huge. Now, here's the kicker. Jeff Grubb continues. If you already have a Samsung Smart TV, you can maybe skip a separate device entirely. Microsoft is working closely with its partners at Samsung to develop an Xbox game streaming app for that company's televisions. That, too, should debut within the next 12 months. Very interesting. We do have the Xbox Bethesda Showcase coming up in a couple weeks. Do we see anything on the hardware front as it pertains to this streaming device? Now, I thought about it. I've been sitting like, how would I utilize this? I have a Series S and I have a Series X. I use my Series S on my main TV, and my Series X I use on a gaming monitor in my bedroom, and it's fantastic. Having those options is amazing. I would definitely buy a streaming device for Game Pass games, especially if that lag was minimum. That's going to be the issue in my mind right now, lag. The Wi-Fi in my bedroom, for instance, is not that great. I mean, I'm able to play multiplayer games on there and stuff, but I would imagine streaming, a cloud streaming service, might be an issue with buffering and whatnot when it comes to multiplayer. Single player, perhaps not an issue, especially right now. Keep in mind, these are the first steps. Remember the first Amazon Fire Stick or even the first Chromecast weren't that great. But as we went on, now they are so solid that you don't even miss a beat, right? The other thing he closes out here in this article, but with games like Fortnite and Halo Infinite, Microsoft could appeal to an audience that is ready to try free games, but not willing to make an investment in expensive consoles. And I think that's the key right there. You open up your potential audience. So Fortnite, you're able to stream Fortnite from a web browser, which is huge. Fortnite's one of the biggest games in the world. Its audience tends to trend younger, so you've just opened up your audience to get them into Game Pass. Hey, I don't have a console. Hey, buddy, how do I play? Hey, did you know you can play on your web browser with Xbox Game Pass? Well, go over there and not with Xbox Game Pass, but through Xbox Cloud for free, 100% free. Go check it out. Go try it. As word gets around with that, especially among the youths, I think that's going to blow people up and just give people a sample of Xbox Game Pass, and that as they get older and have disposable income, they're able to subscribe to the Game Pass. I think it's amazing. I think Halo Infinite coming to that, same concept right there. They clearly want, say what you will about Halo Infinite. Right now, Season 2, they're working through some issues multiplayer-wise, but it's a world-class game overall with the game mechanics, with the shooting. The campaign is fantastic, and I think that it's clear that Xbox is putting in the resources that long-term they want their multiplayer game to be one of the top first-person shooter multiplayer games on the planet, and including it in an Xbox Everywhere style like Fortnite is currently, where you can just jump onto a web browser and play it for free, is huge. And I think is good, and the marketing and the opportunity rather for players to discover that and take advantage of it is huge. Now, why did I bring this up? Because this is super positive news. I think this is Xbox again attempting to be that positive, consumer-friendly, gamer-friendly console brand rather. Regardless, I think this requires 100% streaming. So obviously here, if the Xbox network is down, like what we just spoke about, you wouldn't be able to stream these games because it is a streaming only service. However, I do think we need to address games that you do download to your console. Maybe on this streaming device there's memory and you can download games to this streaming device. You should be able to play those games regardless of whether or not you are logged into the internet or have internet access or the Xbox network is down. I think that's the next step for Xbox. I'd like to see them say something about that. I'd like to see solutions in the works or processes in the works. Process to a solution is in the works. Anyways, I'd love to know what you think about this. What do you think about the streaming device that's coming? Would you purchase one? I know I would. I'd have one on every TV in every room of my house. It would just be a convenience, unlike anything I've ever experienced before when it comes to gaming. What do you think? What do you think about the DRM stuff? What do you think about not being able to access your game that you downloaded on your Xbox if the Xbox network is down like we experienced this weekend? Let me know in the comments below. Again, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer, all Xbox stuff all the time right here on this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.